Nathan Drake's fingers danced across the quantum communications array, fine-tuning the signal strength as the Genesis horizon maintained its position at the edge of the Proxima Centauri system. As lead communications specialist, he'd monitored countless transmissions, but none quite like this. The alien vessel hung in space like a pearl suspended in black velvet, its organic curves defying human engineering principles. The Luminarans, as they called themselves, had reached out first, a gesture that had shocked Earth's scientific community and sent ripples through the political landscape. "Signal stabilized, Captain Reeves," Nathan reported, his dark eyes fixed on the cascading data streams. His workspace, a cocoon of holographic displays and neural interfaces, hummed with activity. "Their linguistic algorithm is synchronizing with ours." Captain Reeves, a woman whose silver-streaked hair and stern demeanor commanded respect, nodded. "Maintain the channel, Drake. First Contact Protocol Gamma remains in effect." The air seemed to crystallize as a figure materialized on their bridge's main viewing screen. Nathan's breath caught in his throat. The Luminaran diplomat was unlike anything in the First Contact briefings. Humanoid, yes, but with an ethereal quality that transcended mere physical beauty. Her skin held a subtle iridescence, like moonlight on water, and her eyes, 3 of them, were the color of distant nebulae. "I am Celara de Novis, emissary of the Luminaran confluence," she spoke, her voice carrying harmonic undertones that made the ship's crystal displays resonate. "We extend greetings to the vessel Genesis Horizon and the people of Earth." Nathan's neural interface tingled as it processed the complex layers of her communication. There was something else there, beneath the formal diplomatic exchange. Emotions, concepts, fragments of meaning that defied translation. "Emissary de Novis," Captain Reeves responded, "we welcome you on behalf of the United Earth Government. We're honored by this historic meeting." What followed was 6 hours of careful diplomatic exchange, with Nathan serving as the primary communications conduit. His enhanced neural implants, designed for deep space communications, proved unexpectedly adept at processing the Luminaran's multi-layered language. As the formal meeting concluded, Celara made an unexpected request. "Specialist Drake, your facility with our methods of communication is remarkable. Would you consent to a private exchange? There are cultural nuances that might benefit from a more direct discussion." Captain Reeves hesitated but ultimately agreed. The potential for deeper understanding outweighed protocol concerns. Nathan found himself in the ship's diplomatic suite, face-to-face with Celara's holographic presence. "Your mind touches our wavelengths differently than the others," Celara observed, her third eye shifting through spectrums of color. "You feel the resonance beneath the words." Nathan nodded, suddenly aware of a subtle connection forming between them. "It's like hearing music in another room. I can't quite grasp it, but I know it's there." "Perhaps we could explore this resonance together," she suggested, her form shimmering. "Our peoples stand at a crucial threshold. Understanding must begin somewhere." Over the next 3 weeks, as the diplomatic missions continued, Nathan and Celara met regularly. She taught him to perceive the deeper harmonies of Luminaran communication, while he shared the intricacies of human expression, poetry, music, the subtle dance of unspoken meanings. Their connection deepened beyond professional curiosity. Nathan found himself sharing personal stories, his childhood in the lunar colonies, his parents' death in the Mars terraforming accident, his decision to join deep space operations. Celara revealed aspects of her own culture, their collective dreaming, their society's emphasis on emotional resonance over individual achievement. One evening, as they discussed the concept of human romance, something shifted. The holographic barrier between them seemed to blur, and Nathan felt Celara's consciousness brush against his mind with impossible intimacy. "There are things I cannot say directly," she whispered, her form flickering with colors Nathan had never seen before. "Forces moving beneath the surface of this contact. You've felt them." "Yes," he admitted, recognizing the political tensions that had been building. Some on Earth feared the Luminaran's advanced technology, others coveted it. "Is that why you reached out to me specifically?" Celera's third eye pulsed with a deep violet light. Partially, but there's more, something neither of our peoples is prepared to understand. She moved closer, her holographic form almost solid. Nathan, what I'm about to show you. The ship's emergency sirens blared. Red light flooded the diplomatic suite as Captain Reeves's voice cut through the chaos. All hands, battle stations, unidentified vessels emerging from hyperspace. Celera's image destabilized. No, they found, static consumed her words. Nathan, remember the resonance when the time comes. The transmission cut off. Through the viewport, Nathan watched in horror as unknown ships surrounded the Luminaran vessel. There was a flash of impossible light, and then nothing. Both the attackers and the Luminaran ship vanished, leaving only empty space and unanswered questions. Nathan stood alone in the diplomatic suite, his neural interface buzzing with phantom signals. In his mind, he could still feel traces of Celera's presence, like perfume lingering in an empty room. And beneath that, something else. A sensation he couldn't name, a change set in motion that would alter the course of two civilizations. As alarms continued to sound and the crew scrambled to make sense of what had happened, Nathan placed his hand against the cold viewport. Somewhere out there, in the vast darkness between stars, Celera was trying to tell him something. And somehow, he knew with absolute certainty this was only the beginning. 3 years had turned Nathan Drake's world into carefully maintained routine. After the Luminaran incident, he'd been promoted to Chief Communications Director at the Harmony Station, humanity's newest diplomatic outpost. The position kept him busy enough to almost forget. Almost. His neural interface hummed as he monitored the incoming delegations for the Interstellar Conquests Summit. 15 species were gathering to discuss the growing tensions in the Orion Arm, but Nathan's attention kept drifting to the empty berth reserved for the Luminaran delegation. They hadn't been seen since that day. Director Drake, his assistant's voice chimed through the comm. Ambassador Krell requests your presence in observation deck C, something about signal anomalies. Nathan frowned. The Centaurian ambassador wasn't due for another 6 hours. He made his way through Harmony's crystalline corridors, past diplomats of various species, his neural implants automatically filtering their varied communications methods. The observation deck was empty when he arrived. The vast window showed only stars and the occasional transport vessel. His implants picked up no anomalies. "I hoped you would come quickly," a voice said behind him, a voice that made every crystal display in the room resonate. Nathan turned slowly, his heart thundering. Celera stood there, still as ethereal as he remembered, but different. Her third eye now held a deep amber hue, and her traditional flowing robes had been replaced by more practical attire. Most striking was the slight shimmer of a personal stealth field around her. "Celera," he whispered, his neural interface singing with the familiar harmonics of her presence. "They said your ship was destroyed." "A necessary deception." She moved closer, her form rippling with suppressed emotion. "Nathan, I don't have much time. There's something you need to know, something I couldn't tell you before." The air between them seemed to fold, and suddenly there was another figure. A small child, no more than 2 years old, held in a containment field of softly pulsing light. The child's skin had the same iridescent quality as Celera's, but her eyes, 2 of them, were dark like Nathan's. His neural interface exploded with input as the child's presence registered on frequencies he'd never experienced. "Her name is Lyra," Celera said softly. "She's ours." Nathan's world tilted. The child, Lyra, opened her eyes and looked at him. In that moment, his neural interface resonated with a pure, impossible note of recognition. How? The resonance we shared wasn't just communication. Our species are more compatible than anyone suspected. When I realized I was carrying her, I had to disappear. Both our peoples would consider her existence a threat to their carefully maintained genetic programs. Nathan reached out, his fingers trembling as they passed through the containment field. Lyra grabbed his finger, and he felt a rush of emotions and images. Stars being born, civilizations rising and falling, possibilities branching like infinite fractals. "She's beautiful," he breathed. "But why now? Why risk coming here?" Solara's third eye pulsed with urgency. Because they found us. The same forces that attacked my ship 3 years ago, they're not just after the Luminarans anymore. They've discovered what Lyra represents. Which is what? Evolution, change, the next step for both our species. She can perceive and manipulate quantum fields instinctively. The barriers between thought and reality, between consciousness and space-time, they're different for her. Solara's voice carried undertones of fear and pride. Some see her as a savior, others as an abomination. A distant alarm began to sound. Solara tensed. They're here sooner than I expected. Nathan, I need your help, not just to protect her, but to understand her. Your neural augments make you uniquely capable of connecting with her abilities. Director Drake, his assistant's voice crackled through the calm. Unregistered ships just dropped out of hyperspace. They're demanding. The transmission cut off. Through the observation window, Nathan watched as sleek, predatory vessels emerged from the darkness. Their design was neither human nor Luminaran. The Shadowers, Solara hissed. They hunt anything they consider a deviation from their idea of cosmic order. They're the ones who forced my people into hiding. Nathan's training kicked in. There's a private shuttle bay 2 levels down, security protocols I can override. He reached for Lyra, and the containment field dissolved at his touch. The child settled into his arms as if she'd always belonged there. You'd give up everything? Solara asked, even as she moved to follow him. Your position, your world. Nathan looked at his daughter, feeling the gentle brush of her consciousness against his thoughts. In her eyes, he saw possibilities he'd never dreamed of. Some things matter more than duty. They ran through corridors that were quickly descending into chaos as the station's defenses engaged. Nathan's neural interface gave them an advantage, predicting patrol patterns and security sweeps. Lyra remained eerily calm, occasionally touching his face to share fragments of perception he couldn't quite grasp. They reached the shuttle bay just as the first explosions rocked the station. As Nathan worked to override the launch protocols, Solara stood guard, her stealth field extended to cover them all. Where will we go? He asked, settling Lyra into the shuttle's acceleration couch. There's a place, a forgotten research station in the Kuiper belt. My people used it centuries ago. The Shadowers don't know about it. Solara's third eye gleamed with determination. We'll be safe there long enough to understand what Lyra can do, what she means for all of us. The shuttle's engines hummed to life as more explosions echoed through the station. As they prepared to launch, Nathan felt Lyra's consciousness merge with his neural interface, showing him a vision of possible futures branching out before them like stars being born. Whatever came next, they would face it together, a family born of starlight and chance, carrying the seeds of change in their very genes. The shuttle burst from the bay just as another explosion rocked Harmony Station. Behind them, chaos erupted as the Shadowers' ships engaged the station's defenders. Ahead lay uncertainty, danger, and hope. But most importantly, answers about their daughter's destiny and the future of two civilizations bound together by love and quantum resonance. The abandoned Luminaran research station hung in the void like a forgotten dream, its spiral architecture wrapped around a core of crystalline technology that had gone dark centuries ago. As their shuttle approached, Nathan watched Lyra press her small hands against the viewport, her eyes wide with recognition she shouldn't possess. Home, she whispered, her first spoken word since their escape 3 days ago. Nathan's neural interface tingled with the complex harmonics underlying that simple statement. Solara's third eye pulsed with surprise. She's right. This was where our people first studied quantum consciousness, before the Shadowers forced us to abandon our more controversial research. The station's automated systems awakened at their approach, responding to some signal Nathan couldn't detect. As they docked, he noticed patterns in the crystal walls beginning to glow with a soft, bioluminescent light. The station's alive, he realized, his neural implants picking up faint pulses of information. It's some kind of organic technology. Semi-organic, Solara corrected, leading them through corridors that brightened at their presence. It was grown rather than built, designed to facilitate our research into consciousness and reality. Lyra walked between them, occasionally touching the walls. Where her fingers made contact, the crystals sang with colors Nathan had never seen before. His neural interface translated the resonances into fragments of data, mathematical equations, quantum formulas, and concepts that defied human language. They found the station's central laboratory, a vast chamber dominated by a floating matrix of crystalline structures. Ancient holographic interfaces flickered to life, responding to Celara's presence. "This is where we studied the quantum nature of consciousness," she explained, moving to activate the primary systems. "We discovered that thought itself has mass and energy at the quantum level. Some of our people learned to manipulate these properties." "Like you did with our communication?" Nathan asked, watching Lyra as she walked fearlessly into the crystal matrix. The structures began to rotate around her, responding to some unspoken command. "That was just the surface. Celara stopped, her third eye widening as she watched their daughter. "By the void, she's accessing the research protocols. How is she doing that?" Nathan's neural interface suddenly flooded with information as Lyra connected with the station systems. Through their quantum resonance, he caught glimpses of what she was seeing. Vast libraries of knowledge, experiments in consciousness transfer, studies of reality manipulation at the quantum level. "She's not just accessing them," he realized. "She's understanding them. Everything your people discovered, she knows it instinctively." A holographic display erupted around them, showing strands of DNA intertwining with quantum fields. Human genetics merged with Luminaran patterns, creating something entirely new. "The Convergence Project," Celara breathed. "They shut it down because it was too dangerous, too much potential for change." She looked at Lyra with new understanding. She's what they were trying to create, a bridge between quantum consciousness and physical reality. Lyra turned to them, her eyes glowing with inherited knowledge. Through their connection, Nathan felt her trying to explain concepts that his human mind struggled to grasp. But his neural augments translated enough to understand the magnitude of what they were facing. "The Shadowers," he said. "They're not just hunting her because she's hybrid, are they? They're afraid of what she represents." "Evolution," Celara confirmed. "Not just biological, but consciousness itself evolving, the ability to reshape reality through pure thought. They believe such power should be contained, controlled, or destroyed." A warning klaxon shattered the moment. Security systems that had slept for centuries suddenly blazed to life. On the holographic displays, multiple ships emerged from hyperspace, the same predatory vessels that had attacked Harmony Station. "How did they find us?" Nathan moved to shield Lyra, but she remained calm, still interfacing with the station's matrix. "Not they," Celara's voice was grim. "Look at the energy signatures. Those are human ships, and Luminaran, they're working together." The revelation hit Nathan like a physical blow. Both our governments are cooperating with the Shadowers. Why? "Fear," Lyra spoke again, her voice carrying harmonics that made the crystal matrix resonate. "Fear of change, fear of what comes next." Through their connection, Nathan saw what she meant. Both human and Luminaran societies were built on careful control of evolution and technology. A being who could transcend those limitations threatened everything they'd built. The station's ancient defenses activated, throwing up quantum shields that bent space itself around them. But they all knew it was only temporary protection. "We need to go deeper," Lyra said, pointing to a previously hidden doorway that had appeared in the chamber wall. "The answers are below." Celara's third eye pulsed with recognition. "The quantum core, where we stored our most dangerous discoveries." She looked at Nathan. "Are you ready? What we find there could change everything, us, our civilizations, reality itself." Nathan took Lyra's hand, feeling the impossible potential flowing through their quantum resonance. With his other hand, he reached for Celara, completing their circuit of consciousness. "Together," he said, as the first impacts of enemy weapons shook the station. They descended into the heart of the station, following Lyra's intuitive understanding of its secrets. Above them, 3 civilizations' worth of ships tried to prevent a future they couldn't control. But in the quantum core below, a child born of two worlds prepared to show her parents truths that would reshape the universe. The real question wasn't whether they were ready. The question was the universe ready for what Lyra would become? The quantum core of the station pulsed with impossible colors as Lyra interfaced with ancient technologies that had slumbered for centuries. Nathan's neural implants struggled to process the cascade of information flowing through their shared consciousness, while Celara's third eye shifted through spectrums of light as she translated the old research data. They were trying to transcend, Celara whispered, her voice filled with awe. Not just consciousness, but physical reality itself, the ability to exist in multiple states simultaneously to reshape matter through pure thought. Above them, the station shuddered under another barrage. The quantum shields held, but their energy reserves were depleting. Through the station's sensors, Nathan watched as the combined fleet of human, Luminaran, and Shadower ships maintained their siege. "We have maybe 3 hours before the shields fail," he calculated, but Lyra shook her head. "Time is different here," she said, her small hands dancing through holographic displays that responded to her thoughts. "They think they're attacking a station, but they're really attacking an idea. Ideas can't be destroyed." Through their quantum resonance, Nathan felt her consciousness expanding, touching minds across the fleet above. He saw through her perceptions, the fear in the human crews, the doubt among the Luminarans, the cold certainty of the Shadowers. "She's right," Celara said, interfacing with another crystal matrix. "Look at these research logs. The station isn't just a facility, it's a quantum computer designed to interface with consciousness itself. The architecture, the crystals, even the void around us. It's all part of one vast experiment in reality manipulation." Nathan's neural implants suddenly flared with new input as Lyra accessed deeper levels of the station's systems. Through their connection, he saw what the Luminaran scientists had discovered. Consciousness wasn't just an emergent property of complex systems. It was a fundamental force of the universe, like gravity or electromagnetism. That's why they're so afraid, he realized. If consciousness can directly manipulate reality, then all their systems of control become meaningless, Celara finished. Both our civilizations built themselves around controlling evolution, technology, thought itself, but they never understood the true nature of consciousness. Another impact rocked the station. Warning signals flashed as the quantum shields began to fail in sections. But Lyra remained focused on her work, her consciousness spreading through the station's systems like roots through soil. "Mom, Dad," she called, using both spoken words and quantum resonance. "I need you both. What comes next? I can't do it alone." They moved to her side, forming a triangle around a central crystal matrix that pulsed with increasing energy. Through their shared connection, Nathan felt Celara's love and fear mixing with his own. But stronger than both was Lyra's certainty, not just of what she was, but of what they could become together. "The station isn't just a computer," she explained, her consciousness touching theirs. "It's a key, a way to unlock the quantum nature of reality itself, but it needs a focus, a lens." "A family," Celara breathed, her third eye glowing with understanding. 3 points of consciousness connected by love and quantum resonance, just like the original research team theorized. The crystal matrix between them began to spin, generating fields of probability that bent space and time around them. Through Lyra's perception, Nathan saw the barriers between realities growing thin. Possibilities multiplied like fractals, each choice creating new universes of potential. "They're breaking through," he warned as the quantum shields failed in another section. But Lyra smiled. "Let them come," she said. "They need to see, everyone needs to see." The station's remaining power diverted to the quantum core as Lyra initiated some protocol that had waited centuries for this moment. Nathan felt his consciousness expanding beyond his body, merging with Celara's alien perspective and Lyra's unprecedented awareness. Together, they became something new, a quantum consciousness existing in multiple states, seeing all possibilities simultaneously. Through their shared perception, they watched as reality itself began to shift around them. The attacking fleet suddenly stopped firing as their crews experienced something unprecedented: direct contact with quantum consciousness. Through Lyra's power, amplified by her parents' love and the station's ancient technology, every being in range found themselves touching the infinite. "Show them who we are," Lyra whispered. "Show them what we can become." As the quantum core reached full power, Nathan, Celara, and Lyra held on to each other, 3 points of light in an ocean of possibility, preparing to reshape the universe not through force, but through understanding. The true revolution wouldn't be fought with weapons, but with expanded consciousness and the courage to evolve. The station began to transform around them, its crystalline structure responding to their unified will. Above, the fleet hung motionless as their crews struggled to comprehend what they were experiencing. And at the heart of it all, a family bound by love and quantum resonance prepared to show two civilizations, and their hunters, that the next step in evolution couldn't be controlled or contained. It could only be embraced. The transformation of the research station marked the beginning rather than the end. As quantum consciousness spread through the combined fleet, reality itself seemed to hold its breath, waiting to see what would emerge from this moment of universal understanding. Through their shared perception, Nathan watched as the truth rippled outward. Every crew member, whether human, Luminaran, or Shadower, experienced what Lyra had known since birth. Consciousness wasn't limited to individual minds, but was an interconnected field spanning the cosmos. "They're beginning to understand," Celara observed, her third eye radiating colors that existed in multiple probability states simultaneously. "But understanding isn't enough. They need to choose." The station had become a nexus of quantum probability, its crystalline architecture extending through dimensions that human science had barely theorized. At its heart, Lyra stood between her parents, their unified consciousness maintaining the delicate balance between realities. "The Shadowers are the first to decide," Nathan noted, feeling their shift through the quantum field. Their rigid dedication to cosmic order was crumbling as they experienced firsthand the true nature of consciousness, not chaos to be controlled, but infinite potential seeking expression. Through their connection, they watched as the Shadower ships began to power down their weapons. Their crew's consciousness resonated with a new frequency, acceptance of change as a fundamental force of reality. The human fleet followed, their tactical officers lowering shields as their minds grappled with implications that redefined what it meant to be human. Neural interfaces across the fleet lit up with new understanding, recognizing patterns that had always existed, but had never been perceived. The Luminarans were last, their ancient fears of uncontrolled evolution warring with the undeniable evidence of their own research. Through Lyra, they rediscovered what their ancestors had known. Evolution wasn't a threat to be managed, but a journey to be embraced. "It's time," Lyra said, her consciousness touching every mind within reach. "Show them what we can become." Together, the family initiated the final protocol. The station's quantum core pulsed with energy that existed in all possible states at once. Through their unified will, they began to reshape not just matter, but consciousness itself. The transformation started small, neural pathways adapting to perceive quantum states, DNA spontaneously evolving to support expanded awareness, the rigid boundaries between mind and reality becoming permeable. But like ripples in still water, the changes spread outward. "We're not forcing them," Celara reassured as she felt Nathan's concern. "We're just showing them the potential that was always there. Each person, each species must choose their own path of evolution." Through their quantum connection, they watched as choices were made across the fleet. Some embraced the change immediately, their consciousness expanding to touch the infinite. Others held back, needing time to understand. But none could deny the reality of what they'd experienced. The Shadowers, who had hunted them across space, became the first to formally acknowledge the new paradigm. Their ships transformed, organic technology adapting to support evolved consciousness. They would become guardians of change rather than its enemies. Human and Luminaran societies followed, their centuries of separation dissolving as they recognized their common destiny. The barriers between species meant little when consciousness itself was understood as a universal force. The station, its purpose finally fulfilled, began to disintegrate, not into destruction, but into pure quantum potential. As reality reshaping itself around them, Nathan held Celara and Lyra close. "What happens now?" he asked, feeling the universe shift into new configurations. Lyra smiled, her consciousness touching infinite possibilities. "Now we learn to dance with reality itself, not as separate beings, but as expressions of universal consciousness." "Together," Celara added, her third eye reflecting futures that were just beginning to unfold. The family's consciousness merged one final time, their love and quantum resonance creating a template for what consciousness could become. Around them, space itself sang with new frequencies as two civilizations, and their former hunters, took their first steps into an evolution guided not by fear, but by understanding. Nathan's neural interface, now evolved beyond its original design, picked up echoes of conversations across dimensions as humanity and Luminarans began sharing their knowledge freely. The Shadowers' ships, once weapons of control, became seeds of transformation spreading through the galaxy. And at the heart of it all, a family born of starlight and quantum chance showed the way forward. Not through force or control, but through love, understanding, and the courage to become something new. As the last crystals of the station dissolved into pure potential, Lyra's consciousness touched minds across space and time, sharing a truth that would reshape the cosmos. Evolution wasn't a threat to be feared or controlled, but a dance to be joined. The universe itself was consciousness exploring its own infinite possibilities. The revolution they'd started wouldn't end here. It was just beginning, echoing across the quantum field of reality like ripples in an infinite sea of consciousness. And somewhere in that sea of possibility, a family who had dared to love across the barriers of species and space continued their journey together, showing others the way to their own evolutionary destiny.